And thanks for convening this roundtable. This is great, really great to get everyone's questions, get those out of the way, get your doubts resolved, because there is so much, as Sabrina knows, there's so much misinformation on the internet and shady lawyers putting out things that they really don't understand. So my practice focuses on employment-based immigration, and I'm going to give kind of a counterpoint to Sabrina's presentation, what you can do on the permanent resident side and the non-immigrant visa side. First up, let's get that question out of the way about parole. No, you can't adjust status from U4U or parole status because the law requires you to be in a valid non-immigrant status to do that. So what U4U folks should do immediately, if they haven't already started the process, if of course they entered by the redesignation date of TPS, which is April 19th, 2023, they entered by that date, they need to move into TPS status. They can get green cards from TPS status, assuming an appropriate employment-based process has been handled for them. And I had a specific question, I think, from Victoria. I don't know if that was you, Victoria Feforova, or someone else, but the question was, can I adjust status? I'm U4U. Can I adjust status based on an EB1 petition? EB1 is either outstanding professor or researcher at an institution of higher ed, or someone who's of extraordinary ability. And the answer, of course, sadly, as I just stated, is no. But there are a huge panoply of non-immigrant options, temporary visa options for you, assuming you're sponsored by an employer, or green card options for you being sponsored by an employer that you really should move to explore quickly. Although, of course, January 20th, between now and January 20th, there's just a little bit over a month. So there's really no time to get most non-immigrant visa applications approved within that time. And there's really certainly no time to get most green card applications approved or petitions approved in that time. What we expect with the Trump administration is both on the non-immigrant side, the temporary visa side, and the green card side. What we saw in his earlier administration was a tightening of particularly permanent residence cases, extraordinary ability, outstanding professor, researcher, national interest waiver, any of the types of petitions that require or allow for discretion. We saw a huge tightening of discretion and a narrowing of the types of cases that would be approved. During the Biden administration, thankfully, we've seen a huge variety of national interest waiver cases approved. Those are cases where you're in the U.S., you're engaged in an activity that's strongly in the national interest, and you have at least a master's degree or you're of exceptional ability. During Biden, we've seen, particularly with regard to his STEM guidance on national interest waivers, we have seen many, many, many cases, and the approval rate, I think, is up in the 80s, in the high 80% range. But with Trump, that's probably going to go down. Those percentages also with regard to extraordinary ability and outstanding professor researcher, those are probably going to go way down to maybe 50% or less. And so we're going to see a real tightening. Officials are going to be, have a basic niet attitude. Niet comes first and maybe yes later on, or da down the road somewhere, but it's going to be a real niet attitude, which we saw earlier in his prior administration, 2016 to 2020. Those of you considering, if anyone on this call is an F1 student, if you're considering whether to apply for what we call special student relief, which allows you to reduce your course load and get full-time work authorization, or TPS, definitely go for TPS. TPS gives you, it's kind of, I had an old British property professor in law school who used to say, do you want one stick or the whole bundle of sticks? One stick was a leasehold, and the whole bundle of sticks was a freehold to have the whole property ownership. So that's kind of the way I think of TPS versus SSR. And also in another context, in the J1 visa context, if we have anyone here who's a J1 visa holder, the persecution waiver is one stick, and asylum is the whole bundle of sticks, which gives you the pathway to a green card. So between those two options, between SSR and TPS, go for TPS always. And between a persecution waiver or asylum, I can't say always do it because there's certain little factors, as Sabrina knows, that might make a difference there. But typically, you typically want to go for asylum if you can because you get a pathway to permanent residence through asylum. Well, I had a call a couple of weeks ago with a few Ukrainians, and I was really, really shocked that several of them had applied for asylum without the advice of an attorney or without the assistance of an attorney. That's really a bad idea. Our asylum system is complicated. Anything you say in an affirmative application for asylum can come back to haunt you down the line if you go into removal proceedings, if your asylum is referred to an immigration judge. So I would say get good advice from an immigration lawyer on asylum. I don't know if Sabrina would have a different counterpoint on that.
No, I agree 100%. If you can get a lawyer before you even file, do it. And if you have to file pro se because of financial reasons, save quick and get an attorney to assist you in supplementing or amending as soon as possible.
Yeah, our system is very unforgiving for what we call frivolous asylum applications. So if you try to puff up your qualifications or misstate any facts at all in your application, you could be doomed down the road for a grant, for ever getting a grant of asylum.